Glad to have you back. You're watching News Night here on Arise News. A youth group, Trust Africa Initiative, is calling for the immediate reversal of the state of emergency declared by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Rivers State. The executive director of the group, Chetam Mwala, said at a press briefing in Port Harcourt that the sole administrator, retired Rear Admiral Ibokete Ibas, is working for the people who were bent on hijacking the state. The group also alleged that the suspension of the secretary to the state government and other members of the State Executive Council is a clear move to kill democracy in the state. It called on civil society groups and organized labor to wade into the matter.
It's really unfortunate that the president is actually supporting this particular move and making sure that this happens. It is also further sad that even board members and board chairmen, heads of institutions whose tenure are protected by the Constitution of Nigeria by Section 119, Sub 1, which states clearly the tenure of these particular persons who are not supposed to naturally go with the governor, even where the governor is existing. The sole administrator has unilaterally decided that they must leave. And that is really sad and unfortunate, because we know that the Constitution of Nigeria is not suspended when a state of emergency is declared, even though we believe that the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State is illegal. We categorically condemn this dictatorial action and call on all Rivers people to stand against this blatant abuse of power. The state belongs to the people, not to a cabal of political opportunists seeking to milk it dry. Democracy must be restored and Rivers people must not be silenced. We demand an immediate reversal of this illegal suspension and a return to democratic governance. We are calling on the civil society organization, calling on every other person, every well-meaning Nigeria, including labor, to as well take action, because we cannot fold our hands and watch the president and his surrogate defecate on our constitution. President Tinubu should tell Rivers people what wrong we have done, so we can come and appease him for him to lift this sadness he has brought to us. He has brought upon us economic hardship, and we condemn it.
It is now one day, one drama in Rivers State. And while Nigerians are expecting that the 6-month emergency rule will allow for reconciliation and peace discussions, it seems actors are not willing to sheath their swords. We'll cross over to Port Harcourt to speak with Opunabo Taria, who is a former special assistant on media for former Governor Nyesom Wike. Glad to have you join us on News Night, Opunabo. I'm sure you listened to that statement from the youth group Trust Africa Initiative. They're saying the SOLAD is working for people who are bent on hijacking the state. What exactly do you think he means, and how are they working to hijack the state?
Please, it's advisor, not assistant, please. Could you correct that?
Sorry?
Former special advisor, not former special assistant.
Oh, sorry about that. Former special advisor, right? Go ahead. You heard my question.
Thank you. Yes, it's unfortunate that what we have is not democracy. It's what I call democratic apparition. And it's been headed by democratic heathens, those who don't believe in democracy. We live in a country where the rule of law is caged and administration of justice roundly subverted. A country where we have executive rascality, legislative enslavement, and judicial desecration. Unfortunately, those who are meant to protect the judiciary, I'm talking of the justices, are the ones desecrating the judiciary. And you ask me how? You have justices whose lips drip with words of interposition and nullification. In the case of Lagos State government versus Obasanjo, when the president was governor of Lagos State, he went to court over the stoppage of allocation. And the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot stop allocation. Allocations are end as a right of the state. And when Yar'Adua took over, he paid Lagos State. But in this case, they are saying, no, it is the same Supreme Court that is stopping the allocation. So how can you say the tempest of justice will blow fitfully? That's why I say We are not in any democracy. It's just dictatorship covered up with niceties and complexities. The situation is irksome in Rivers State. You stopped allocation when you had a democratically elected governor. Now you brought in a sole administrator. First and foremost, you said the state was precarious. The administrator came into Rivers State, and at the airport, he said the state seems peaceful. You referred to the governor, I'm talking to the president now. You referred to the governor as a dictator, that he demolished the House of Assembly. The administrator went there and said the assembly is almost 80% completed. So you see the contradiction of paradox. But just because they're acting out a script written by the FCT minister, Yeson Wike, and that is why they are trying to vilify the governor. What has he done? This is a man that has barely touched the allocation from the federal government. All the developments that have taken place in Rivers State were done with IGR. The state, before his suspension, was on construction frenzy, with a governor working at frenetic pace to ensure both human and capital development.
All right.
This is a man that, for the history of Rivers State, is yet to borrow to execute projects. Yet, he has affected positively and financially the lives of Rivers people, including workers.
All right, Opunabo.
This is a man that came to Rivers State and told us that from 12 billion naira, the actual IGRO is 28 billion naira.
Yeah, Opunabo, let me take you up.
What is the problem? Because they want to leech on our economy. Yes.
Yeah, let me take you up on your comparison with what happened during the president's time as governor in Lagos State and what transpired in Rivers vis-a-vis what the Supreme Court, the ruling it handed down. The Supreme Court said that there was no government in Rivers State because there was no House of Assembly. That was why they passed that judgment. So the two cases don't seem to be the same.
Excuse me, we are talking of the stoppage of allocation. Don't forget that when you look at the issue of that was what the Supreme Court said. And the Supreme Court, like Justice Roberts said, that has been ascribed to Justice Soputa, the Supreme Court is final, not because it is infallible. It is infallible because it is final. The Supreme Court has spoken. Unfortunately, even on the issue of declaration of state of emergency, the National Assembly validated it. That's why I talked of legislative enslavement with a voice vote, which is an anomaly, you know. But then, this is the same president who excoriated Jonathan when a state of emergency was declared in the three northern states. And even at that, the governors were not removed. They were not suspended. You see, when you say you stop allocation, you are not in any way undoing the governor of a state. That's the mistake you make. When you stop allocation, the governor can use that to say he's not able to pay workers, he's not able to carry out projects, he's not able to do those things he's expected to do as a governor. The governor can still feed fat on the IGRO. Don't forget that. So you, as the president, you as a judge or as justice of the court or the Supreme Court, should realize that the governor is not the one to suffer when you stop allocation.
All right, Opunabo.
The people are meant to suffer.
All right, Opunabo.
I'm not the governor. These are the considerations. Yes.
The wholest sense, well, in some quarters, people have argued back and forth. The emergency declaration is wrong. It's constitutionally, and the president has argued, the AG, that it is right and all that. But the whole essence of what is playing out is for reconciliation in Rivers State. Are we really, I mean, Rivers people like you and the rest, including the governor and the rest of the people, are we looking to this reconciliation at all? What should the entire Rivers people, the stakeholders, the players here, shouldn't they be driving or working towards reconciliation of the warring parties?
The cessation of hostility is the wish of everybody. And I tell you that Rivers people are sick and tired of this. But in all honesty, I must say this, that maybe we must have achieved, we may or we might have achieved, let me say 90% development by this time. But probably we've achieved only about 60%. That does not mean the suspended governor was not working. I can tell you that. The projects he has executed in less than 2 years can be compared to what the former governor did in 8 years. I can tell you that. Rivers people will tell you that. Now, if you talk of peace in Rivers State, even the suspended governors told you and said to the world, even on your channel, that he went on his knees to beg the FCT minister. He also said it on channel that there is nothing he's not done to placate the FCT minister. But for a man that is vindictive, what do you want? A man that has a script. He's read, and that script, as far as he's concerned, that script must be followed to the letter. You can force a horse to the street, but you can't force it to drink. We all know that. The governor, the suspended governor, said he's willing, but definitely not at the expense of Rivers people. That is just it. Otherwise, what are you saying? You must control the local government. You're talking of structure. This is a man who said, once I hand over, I have no business with governance.
Okay.
I will never interfere.
Before I let you go.
What structure are you talking about? So, excuse me, just 1 minute to address that. So, if you talk of peace, what we expect Mr. President to do is to wade in dispassionately. But unfortunately, he's taking sides. And that is why we have what we have. That's why we have the state of emergency in Rivers State today. The president, unfortunately, has taken sides.
All right. Just briefly, before I let you go, very briefly, I had a former commissioner under Fubara here, Gifts, yesterday. He said that Fubara, the suspended governor, is not interested in peace, that he never obeyed the Supreme Court judgment, especially on presentation of the budget to the House of Assembly. What's your sense of that, briefly?
That is complete gibberish. Absolute balderdash. This is a man. Don't forget there were conflicting judgments on the issue of presentation of budget to the House of Assembly. And when the Supreme Court ruled, he went to the Assembly to present his budget, acting in reliance upon the Supreme Court judgment. He went there. And what happened? They shut the doors against him because they already had the ulterior motive. That was what happened. So how can anybody come on air to tell you that the governor refused his pon to present the budget? No. It's news that a governor of a state went to the Assembly to present the budget and they locked the gates just to prevent it, because they already had the ulterior motives. They had already agreed on the state of emergency. This did not just happen. It was premeditated. They had already agreed on the state of emergency. No life was lost. Structures were, even the issue of the pipeline that they said there was a pipeline explosion, the company came out to say it was a leak. So right. It was orchestrated just to ensure that the governor, just to justify the removal or the suspension of a governor. It's as simple as that. The man was there at the Assembly after the Supreme Court judgment.
All right, Opunabo, in quote Taria, former advisor on media to former Governor Nyesom Wike. I hope I got that right. Thanks for being.
You got it right, my brother.